All right, Frederick. First off, thanks so much for hopping on. Where are you sitting right now?
I'm in Germany, in Raden, a little town somewhere central Germany, nearby Hanover.
Cool. What's the small town like? Is it one of those one stoplight towns?
It's pretty small, and if you come, I actually lived in Hanover first for 2 years, which is kind of a bigger city. There's also a big airport, and if you then make the transition to something, uh, yeah, tiny as this, you get a feeling like you're at the end of the world here. But on the other hand, it's pretty cool because there's lots of green, and I really like nature around me. So yeah, I kind of
Awesome.
enjoy it.
Awesome. And as we're, from a context perspective of timing, we're sitting in a time where you just started your second lockdown, right? You were just telling me?
Yes, that's right. I guess it happened 2 weeks ago or so that we are now in the second lockdown. Um, I think people take it more lightly as well because they are kind of used to it. So while there is still a lockdown, I think it is more at ease. People
Gotcha.
deal with it in a better way. I think if
Gotcha.
there is a third or a fourth lockdown, we won't even bother anymore. I don't know. Yeah.
I wonder. So I'm actually we're gonna start with a question that we usually go into like a background review, a description, and all that stuff. But I'm fascinated. What has been the impact of COVID on you, and then what do you think is going to be the impact sort of as we get out of this situation?
Yes, I'm pretty lucky that I'm not really heavily impacted from COVID because I have kind of a business model that allows me to still earn money while I have long-term agreements with my clients and they all pay me monthly related. So um, we still work together. So that just goes on, and I don't have any negative impact. I think it might be more difficult to find new clients right now, but I'm not really currently looking for them. So, uh, yeah, I'm pretty happy the way it goes. Like I said, things slow down, and it makes me, yeah, even it allows me to have even more free time and still serve my customers. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is going to be something freelancers are listening right now. You probably are just like, oh my god, what did he just say? He has monthly retainers from his clients. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to unpack that because that is fascinating. Can't wait to hear more about that. But so let's just start with the background. Sort of, where are you from? Yeah, give us the background of what you're doing right now, where you're from, and let's hear your story.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm a Belgian. You probably hear that from my accent. I worked there for quite some years. First in a big corporate environment. I did that for 6 years. The golden cage, like everyone knows it. You kind of just spend your days there, spend some time. Yeah, not really sure actually pretty sure what the day will bring, which is not much. And after an hour or 2 hours, you're sitting there with your fingers playing, not knowing what to do. Um, and after 6 years, I really had it. And I said, yeah, something needs to change. No? So the only solution I saw was, I want more freedom. And the only solution that came to me was become independent. I worked in a big flooring company in a technical department. So we investigated complaints and stuff like that. And then I had the amazing idea of becoming an independent inspector for laminate floorings and wooden floorings. And I thought my boss would really like that because we use independent inspectors for England and for the Netherlands, but not for Belgium. So I will be the one doing that for Belgium. That will be fantastic. But the moment I told my boss, he said, "What, you're leaving?" And I never saw an assignment. Of course, he was really pissed actually that I went away without. So that wasn't really the nicest transition, but I really needed it because I was at the end of my rope, mentally exhausted by doing nothing. And while you're in the corporate world, you think, "Oh, I could do this and I could do that because I'm sitting here and I'm doing actually nothing really important." And I had so many ideas, but I must say, the first 6 months that I went out of the big corporation and spending time on my own business, I pretty much did nothing but laying on the couch and watching TV. I was really like, my energy was so low and I couldn't bring it up. Plus, I thought I had a plan, but I didn't have one. Uh, I thought, yeah, assignments will come to me, but that wasn't the case, of course. You need to reach out, especially in the beginning. But I had no idea what I was getting into. Freelancing, no idea. No, and that was really a journey of discovery after discovery of how to do it right.
This is incredible. So usually the story is I was at an agency and I had a couple clients and then I left, and those clients I started working with them private, and I was making so much money, and I was working so much. So to hear, number one, you were like thrown into the fire, right? Like this was not a, usually people are like, oh, did you side hustle at first and then jump in? And no, you were like thrown off the ship. And then number two, this was not a sexy, I had a bunch of clients, like you said, sitting on the couch, eating fruity pebbles, watching Looney Tunes.
Yeah, indeed. But I could, yeah, actually, I wasn't probably at my best right then, because with all respect, but the corporate life really sucked the energy out of me. And I didn't know back then, but I really wasn't the human being I should have been in order to start a business, because it is a mental exercise, but also you need to be alive. And when you're not in a good place mentally, then things become difficult. And the only reason why I really started, why I jumped to the freelance world, was that my wife back then told me, stop complaining and just do it. So I did it, and the following day I did it, and I went home and I said, yeah, I quit. I just said to my boss that I will leave the company. And she said, what did you do? And really, that was kind of, you gave up your only security. And so that was completely the opposite of what I expected. And I guess she knew why, because I didn't have a plan. No? And things became more difficult then, until that one client came by miraculously. So and from then on, things started to grow, in fact. Yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Okay, and what skill, like what were you doing pre-freelance, and what skill are you doing now with freelance?
Yeah, well, I have the opinion, or the belief, and the really strong belief, that anything can be learned, which means, I went into the corporate world. I didn't have any degree or whatsoever, but I was hoping for some kind of office job, and sometimes you need a little bit of luck, but I got into the technical department, and I first started as administration, but then little by little, I started investigating complaints, understanding more how wood works, how the laminate flooring world and the product itself, how that is actually being made and what it does, and what are the influences like temperature and stuff like that. So I really became good at analyzing. And I think that's probably something that every freelancer needs, is a good observation, a good eye, and a thinking mind to understand what's going on, whether it's with your client, with your service or your product. You need to have a basic understanding. So based upon that, I really think, I can learn anything. So I did. At the end, I was actually a technical advisor for laminate flooring. I trained people to install them. I trained people to sell laminate floorings, and I also investigated complaints. Really, I did that in the company itself, and then I thought I'd do it for my own.
That is so okay. I'm fascinated to hear this sort of from Looney Tunes on the couch to your first project, then to your second, then your fourth, then your 10th. Before that, I don't know how I haven't called this out yet, but you also have best beard out of anyone that's sort of been on Freelancer Talks. And I think it was hitting me when you were telling me about like the laminate floor, and then I'm like, this is so perfect. Like this is so perfectly making sense. Like I'm imagining you like in a little local Home Depot, like small little wood shop, just like chopping up wood and stuff, and being like, yeah, what do you want with that beard? So it's awesome.
I didn't always have that beard, but indeed.
But so, and I wonder, does that come with freelance? Like once you start being a freelancer, do you all of a sudden grow this incredible beard?
Maybe. I think actually, if you think about it more deeply, it probably is, because I think as a freelancer, you need to evolve and to be, as a freelancer, you need to sell somehow your product or your service. And actually, if you look at it pure selling wise, you need to push clients and this and that. Well, it's actually the opposite. If you become yourself, if you are really natural and really at ease, and you have a a nice talk with a potential client, you will have more chances to sell your service or to sell your product or whatsoever. So I think actually I like my beer. One day I stood up and I thought, yeah, let's grow it, and it feels natural and it feels good. So yeah,
That
it
is
just I am.
that I'm using that sentence as the title of the episode, by the way, as I like my beard. But so so getting tangible again. So okay, bring us from Fruity Pebbles on the couch to the first project to the second
Yeah.
project.
I actually was really lucky because yeah, you know, those days, sometimes sat in front of my computer and tried something like a website, or thinking I'm doing something good for my business, but actually not reaching out. So it was actually impossible for clients to find me. But I had an ex-colleague of the corporate who actually went for his own business as well. And he had a plan. He did obviously pretty well, and he needed help. So as he knew me from the corporate environment, he called me and said, hey, I have a big job here. I need to install some displays for my product, for my flooring product. Can you help me out? And that was my first assignment. That was not what I wanted to do, investigating complaints, but it was an assignment. And I was like, oh, yes, of course I want. I want to do that. Yeah. And then I did that, and I made my first invoice. And that was, wow, that was magical, because 30 days later, that guy paid me. And I thought, you see, it is possible. People do pay for something that I did entirely on my own. And that was so mind-blowing and so a positive experience. And from then on, you gain also confidence. Like, yes, it is possible. And from there on, yeah, it really went fine, because I had only that as an assignment. So I put everything in it. I did things right. And then, of course, he talks to his clients. And from then on, it really went fast. Yeah. So I started
awesome.
in 2011, and then 2012 was my first client who actually found me and not the opposite.
Okay. And so the first one was a prior relationship. Now, how'd that turn into two projects? Then how'd that turn into four?
Yeah, well, actually, I explained him that I really love to investigate complaints, because that is what I'm good at. I like to investigate problems and to know why that is, and help people out and say, look, this is your problem. This is the solution as well. Because yeah, installing displays, that is not, something that is of value to me. I don't get any energy from that. And I told him that, and he got it. And he said, yeah, but he was an importer for some kind of laminate flooring or vinyl product. And he said, yeah, of course I have complaints as well. If you want, you can investigate those. So from then on, that was my first step towards what I really wanted to do. And once you get into that cycle, it really goes automatically. And this is also one of my strong beliefs, that you only need to know the next step in the right direction, because you always create a new situation, and that becomes a new situation, and so on. So you don't have to put that much effort in it, but when you do it right, and then everything grows from itself. Growing is a natural thing, which means that you don't really need to put in a lot of energy. You actually need to take away more or less the friction that keeps it from speeding up. Because once something is in motion, it wants to stay in motion. So it will go faster anyway.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So in terms of these actual projects, right? What does your workload look like today? Because you mentioned you have a bunch of monthly retainers, and so do you have like how many clients, and help us understand what the workflow looks like today?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's actually kind of an interruption 2 years later, because work started really growing too fast, and of course, I had to learn that lesson as well, that you have to say no to certain assignments. I didn't know that. I just saw more or less the money, and I didn't want it to disappoint clients, or I thought, yeah, if I say no to this, then it might all stop, and those kinds of doubts. So I got way too much work, and things became really complicated. I had to hire other people, and instead of investigating complaints, I also said, yeah, I can install laminate floorings and wooden floorings as well. So I went a whole different direction, which made it even more more difficult, and I didn't get any energy from it because I'm not an installer. I mean, that is not what I really like to do, but that became my main thing. And of course, at a certain point, you get fed up. And I noticed that I was working 24/7 again with deadlines all over the place, and my freedom was gone. And that was my first reason to begin freelancing. So I got into a loop into the same situation, but now in a freelance environment. So I had to quit. At a certain moment, I said, this is not it. I quit everything. I will rethink things so that I do it in a right way, because I knew freelancing is the way to go. So I left that behind. Disappointed. I left some disappointed clients behind as well. Yeah, that is what it is. But yeah, I started all over doing administration because I didn't know. I started in a big corporation as an administrative person, which evolved into a technical person. And I only saw the technical side, but I could, of course, also have made the choice of administration, which was more easy. So I stepped back and I decided I will give administrative support. And I know big companies, so I started now reaching out to them because now I know sitting in the couch, it won't happen. That won't work. So I reached out and I had the confidence because I know I can learn anything, I can do anything, and people do pay me for my work, which is amazing. So I could reach out, I did, and it didn't take that long to have my first assignments in companies as kind of interim management, taking over some little projects, doing some really executive work, like here's this task, we need to put in that data or whatsoever. So I started out there in bigger companies. And the problem with bigger companies is that they do not make that much commercial. So it's not because you do one thing good that that company will tell to another company, oh, you need Frederik for a job. So you actually need to keep on reaching out in order to find clients, which is a difference with what I'm doing now. I work with smaller companies, actually with entrepreneurs themselves, and they do talk in their network. They do say, oh, you need Frederik for this job or this. So this is kind of inbound marketing, which is really the easy way to go, which I like. It's effortless. I don't need to reach out. I just need to do my work as good as I can, and the rest follows, because of course they talk. Yeah, makes things easier for me. So now I am in this position.
Gotcha.
And no longer am I doing single tasks and no more administrative tasks. It's more like organizational support. And it is also actually on a monthly basis, but I do not work with contracts. I am really a person that believes in respect and confidence and trust. So whenever they say, look, we don't need your help anymore, it's fine by me. We quit or whatsoever. There are no strings attached. It's also an ongoing project. And why do I do it like this? Actually, if they have that habit of asking, we have a new task or a new assignment or a new project, we will put Frederik on there because they pay me anyway. They don't need to make that decision over and over again in their head. What will it cost? And do we actually want to give it to somebody? No, you take that out of the equation, which is easier because I'm already there. It's easy to give me the work. And if it becomes too much, then I'm quite open to tell them and ask, hey, I see that this is becoming actually too much. We need to either negotiate prices or put people in or whatsoever.
I really want to get into sort of how a freelancer can get this retainer model. And it's kind of the home run for both sides. Like it's a total win-win. Yep. From a client side, like the biggest fear from a client is, when I do need you, are you going to be busy? And for people like you, the answer is 110% of the times, yes. And so a retainer locks me into being able to actually have your time. And then from your side, right, you have predictability, you have consistency, which the good of a job, right, was predictable, consistent revenue. With freelance, it can be a nightmare when you kind of feel like you're on this roller coaster. But so Yeah, so let's get into this retainer slash whatever you want to call it. But how can a freelancer go from, I did a great task or did a great project with this client to becoming the trusted source and having this retainer like you do?
Yeah, it's kind of a skill that I had to learn as well, but it's called communication. It's not it's not rocket science, but it's all about relationship building. I mean, I don't consider if somebody gives me a task, I don't consider it a task. I consider it the beginning of a relationship. I just need a foot in the door to show how good I am, how professional I am, but also how much more I am than just that task. My first goal is, okay, let's deliver the result that you are looking for as a client, but then I will be more in touch than anyone else. I will become that, it will become normal that we have a relationship, that we talk either on daily basis or on weekly basis. I will keep them posted, like, I'm doing this, or I saw this in your company. Hey, of course it is first task related, but then you can expand it a little bit to what you actually notice. And like I said before, observation is really key, wherever that is. But if you tell your boss, the entrepreneur themselves, look, I've seen this kind of thing, and I have some experience with that. It is a way to work. It is a way to go. But do you know that there are alternatives, or that there are better ways, and you kind of go wider. You show what you have in store for them, and from one thing leads to another. But it's really, you shouldn't be forcing it, because of course you can come in day one and say, oh, I saw that and you need to change that. And no, it has to happen in a natural way. I mean, it's just talking. And if I know one thing, I'm actually more or less addicted to talking about business, to talking about relationships, to talking about problems or solutions or whatsoever. And entrepreneurs, they all have it. Put 5 entrepreneurs in one room and they will have amazing talks. Those people are inspiring. They are creative. They like to talk about things back and forth, to know ideas, to what do you think about that? And if you're open to it and you start building a relationship, yeah, then beautiful things happen. And then along the road, I will offer something like, look, I know we have this task and I have a price for this task, but I don't want to make a price every single time for a task, because then you have to make a decision every time. Do I give it to Frederik or not? And I don't think that's optimal for both of us. So why don't we agree on a price per monthly, on a monthly basis? And you just tell me what you find reasonable. Can you actually see me as an employee in your company who is paid differently, who is not paid on a payroll, but on just by sending an invoice per month? It's just making them that perspective clear, that you are actually an employee, but paid differently, not on the payroll.
I really want to dig into how, like, what do you think is the tangible sort of inputs that get to this end state? Because end state equals retainer, inputs equal communication and the relationship. But there's a lot of things I think that freelancers either take for granted, like good freelancers like you've been doing it. So you just, and this is why kind of with Freelancer Talks, we make sure we tell you no script, no storytelling, no thought leaders, because it's like we just need to pull out of your brain what is the input actually happening. But this building of the trust with the clients, what would you say are like the 3 most important things that a freelancer can do to build the trust with their client?
First of all, you ask the entrepreneur or what is your goal? Where do you want to go with the company? That, and it's either trying to, it's not even, I don't even want to call it convincing, but it's showing that you have the same goal. I want the same goal for your company. And if you want to reach 50,000 clients, or you want to make a profit, or you want to make your product better or your service better, hey, that's what I want to do as well. I want that for your company. Yeah? So that is a first thing. And secondly, I also think that we have a lot to offer, but we probably don't know. Too many freelancers are actually stuck in their little world, and I don't mean that negative, but they do not see what they can offer. It's so much more because they are a person. You as a freelancer are your product. Yeah, it's you as a human being that adds value to that company because you are you. You look differently at the world than somebody else. So share that perspective, and the more you communicate, the easier it goes. It's an automatic thing, but you shouldn't force it. It's always nice to build a long-term relationship, but if you put too much stress on it, or you know, and that's kind of self-knowledge, you need to have that calm and ease. But especially in the beginning, when I didn't know what freelancing was, or if I had to go to a client, I had to sell. I was already stiff and nervous for making that sell. It has to happen. Yeah, it can't be anything else. And of course, you have that energy, and yeah, you push the other away. Well, it shouldn't be like that. It really is. You have an amazing company, and it should also be the truth. You have an amazing company, and I would love to work here, but not as an employee, but as a freelancer. But I consider myself to be an employee of your company. Can you use somebody like me? And can you see me as an employee, even though I'm paid on a freelance basis?
I love that. I love that. And so if I could summarize your top 3 points in order to build the trust of the client. So the first is ask what's your goal, so you can establish a shared sort of vision. 2 would be expand your scope of offering. So being more than just just a designer, but instead you can also take on project management. You can take on SEO. You can take on a full website. And then 3rd would be just communication. And the more you communicate, the easier it gets. And I think the quote that I loved was when you said, you have an amazing company and I'd love to work here. Like, I think that's one of the things with freelancing is like, you're not losing the relationship. I think that's one of the biggest misunderstood myths is that people think that, oh, a freelancer, they're a contingent worker, right? They're like a staffing worker that just shows up, then leaves. And it's like, no. Good freelancers, the project ends, the relationship never ends, which is why the best freelancers only have like 5 to 15 good clients that are always referring back to them that they love. So hell yes. I wonder one quick thing that I was wondering. Do you have an elevator pitch when you meet a client for the first time?
Probably not, because I just say, if they really ask me, what do I do? Then I say, I make things less complicated for entrepreneurs. I install freedom giving structures.
Things less complicated. Okay.
For me, everything is about freedom. So I also want the entrepreneur to be free of worries or whatsoever and make his life more easy, because I think life has so many different fields that should be enjoyed, and work is just one of them. Yeah. And I use work as a means to live, as most people should. But yeah, we build a life around work, while I build a work around life.
Gotcha. So, okay. So one last sort of longer question. And what I just want to hear is, I want to hear about sort of a project that you're most proud of. And it could be a client that you're most proud of, but I really just want to hear, we all have our story, right? Of what project will you always remember? For me, it was, we saved 75 manufacturing jobs, and I'll never forget the feeling of that project. But so for you, what has been your proudest client or project?
Yeah, it's actually quite recently. I came into a company, and they pretty small. It's actually a company that installs roof. So they work with, I think, 20 people outside. So really installing roofs. And on the office itself, the compartment, there were 5 people. But everything happened old school, not so much. A little bit of computer work, but not really streamlined. So I did all that, because that was the reason why he hired me, to make things less complicated, to have internal communication. But the thing that I'm most proud of is that he said, I would love a person like you to be full-time in my company. And I said, yeah, I know, and you have that person, but you just didn't realize it, or you just haven't seen it yet. And I told her, because actually, like I said, observation is everything, and you get to know people as well. And there was really one person who was so dedicated. She worked over 10 years there already. And now she has become his right hand in the company. So, and because, you know, that kind of person is exactly what I'm doing, which is you can give an assignment and you know it will be handled. They trust you and things will work out and things will move and you will get result. She is exactly the same person, but he hasn't seen her like that yet. And some months ago, I said, please get her next to you, involve her in all your products, and you will see how much workload you will transfer from you to her, and she will make things better, less complicated as well, because she has the brain and she is dedicated and she can be trusted. You know, I give an assignment, it will be taken care of, and if not, she will be there at my door asking something is not right. And so they did that a couple of months ago, I think 3 months ago, and now that company is really rising, making more sales, just because of the you can see actually the company breathing, like we have space, we have, it's really wonderful. That's and I'm still in there, but really in the back, almost doing nothing, just making relationships, making sure that everything runs smooth, and where not, then I help. But it's kind of on the background thing, a program that runs in the background. That's what I am there for the moment. Yep.
That by far wins best sort of story with freelancer talks. That is so cool, especially because you didn't have to do that, and you actually it was against your own self-interest to have done that. Yet you made people better. You made that person's life, and you made people better by your. That's incredible. That is so cool. All right, hands down. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it pays off as well. He said, "I'm not letting you go because I need our talks anyhow." So I'm still in the picture. I mean, I'm still getting paid by that company in the back, like I said, in the background, and I see it. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's nice.
I almost don't even we have our 3 rocket round, but I almost just want to end it there because it's hey, this is that is the coolest story ever. But I'm still going to do the rocket round. You ready?
What is the rocket round? Because
I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you. The only rules are you have less than 30 seconds to answer each question.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Favorite book? Favorite book? Yep.
Oh, favorite book. I thought you said film or book. Principles from Ray Dalio.
That's a good one. That's actually really good. There's some good YouTube videos about it too. Okay, favorite tool out there?
Yeah, I'm an Asana fan.
Nice. And then I thought you were going to say a hammer and nail with the beard and everything. I was like, oh, he's totally going to say some lumberjack type of tool. Last question. Favorite animal?
Yeah. Fish.
Really? I thought you were going to say German Shepherd. I don't know why. To me, you seem like the perfect person that should have a German Shepherd hopping out of their truck.
I have a German Shepherd, indeed. Yeah.
I knew it. Well, people look like their dogs.
Yeah. Indeed.
That is so perfect. Frederick, thank you so much. Anyone listening, you have to go listen to the story about the ideal client or the role model project. Everyone needs to go listen to that right now. But Frederick, thank you so much for hopping on.
You're welcome. I am really happy to be invited on this talk. It's a first for me, and I really like it. But you make it quite easy as well.
Yeah, it's right back at you. I'm just the idiot that mimics what you're saying. Perfect. Frederick, thank you so much.